In the traditional document object model, or DOM, all the elements on the web page are part of a single global DOM tree. When using components in your application, whether it is yours or external ones, there is sometimes a logic overlap between these components, resulting in styling issues and even sometimes JavaScript logic issues. To help us with this, the gods of web development presented us with the Shadow DOM. This allows developers to create reusable encapsulated components that can be used across multiple pages and applications without the fear of overlap. Let's use the following example to show how to use the Shadow DOM and how it can solve the following problem. We have a simple HTML page with a components folder containing two button components. One was made by you and the other was made by another hypothetical developer. Each of the components has a CSS, HTML, and JavaScript file with all the logic the component needs to work properly. You then import each of the components by referencing the styles in the header of your page, creating an element with the ID of the component, and linking the JavaScript file for each. Looking at the JavaScript of each component, we can see that it simply populates the div you created on your page with the component's HTML and creates a button on-click event to alert the user on which button was clicked. The style of your button simply changes the button color to red, while the other button changes to green. Now here's the problem. You and the other developer do not know each other and have never communicated. Because of this, you both assumed that your component will only be used by yourselves and therefore give it the same class name and ID of button. This will create two issues. The first issue is that both buttons will now have the same green color because they share the same class name, and the latter will overwrite the former. And the second one is that because they share the same ID, both on-click event listeners will be attached to the first element with that ID, causing the alert to show not only the wrong message but also not showing on the second button. To fix this using the Shadow DOM, we can start by deleting the code that populates the page with the component's HTML. Instead, attach a shadow root to your container with the open modes. This just makes the shadow root accessible through JavaScript. If it were closed, then the shadow root element would return null. Finally, set its inner HTML with the HTML of your component. We can now see that the buttons no longer share the same styling. And if you go to the page elements, you can see the button component inside the shadow root element. Now, because the shadow root is isolated from the rest, the component doesn't recognize the button class even if you import it from the header. What we have to do is move this reference inside the shadow root by transferring the link element from the main page to the component's HTML. Finally, for the click listener, we just have to fetch the element with the ID button from the shadow root and not from the document. Do all of this to the other button as well, and you will have two completely independent components working properly in your application. You can now create high-quality web components and share them with the world without the fear of overlapping styles and logic. This will make your clients happier and you'll sleep better knowing that your code is less prone to errors. I hope you guys like it, and if so, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers!